Alright, good evening ladies and gents, welcome back to Compound Interesting. My name's Emil, and in today's video we're going to be discussing Solana, and I've done a bit of a deep dive research into Solana, and I'm trying to make it the third biggest holding in my crypto portfolio after Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now the reason I've done this research and getting quite excited about Solana, the main reason is because if you've been following my channel at all, you've noticed that I've gotten very interested in NFTs over the last year, and Solana has the second biggest NFT ecosystem by a mile. Like, the third biggest ecosystem is probably Cardano, and there's way less NFT adoption on the Cardano blockchain as there is on Solana. So the Solana NFT ecosystem has been flourishing and blooming over the last year, and it's actually massive now. Like, it's still way smaller than the Ethereum. Like, the value of Ethereum NFTs is way bigger than Solana still. However, the attraction for Solana is obviously it's super cheap and super fast, which we'll get into. So the kind of idea in my head is that anyone who has a much smaller starting capital but wants to get involved in NFTs, like someone say from a third world country, or you know, a 17-year-old or something, they might prefer the Solana ecosystem because they don't have to spend. It's essentially free to use the ecosystem. Like, the transaction costs are like, they're basically negligible, so they might as well be free. Whereas with Ethereum, like right now they're super cheap at the moment, but when Ethereum is really, you know, when a lot of people are using the Ethereum network, they can get very, very expensive. So for traders hopping in and out of NFTs, or for any sort of like transactions that you need to be making quite regularly, that's where Solana kind of shines. So there was basically this concept of the blockchain trilemma that Vitalik Buterin, I think, came up with, whereas you can't have maximum decentralization, maximum scalability, and maximum like really cheap fees. Like, you can't have all three of those things. So Ethereum was always trying to optimize for the perfect balance of those three things, but they always kind of focused on decentralization. So the scalability of Ethereum, of the base layer of Ethereum, was always kind of low. So when a lot of people want to use the Ethereum network, there's only a certain amount of space on each block, so you have to pay a huge amount of Ethereum to actually get into that block. Like, when I was minting my other deeds, I paid like 1.5 Ethereum just to get into that block to be able to mint another deed, which was crazy, but I did it anyway. Spent like $5,000 in one transaction. Now obviously that's just an anomaly because it was the biggest event on Ethereum blockchain probably ever in regards to fees. So a lot of other blockchains they don't really have the scalability issues because not a lot of people are using their blockchains, so they're faster and cheaper. However, Solana, not only does it have the faster and cheaper element, it also has the scalability element because they're using an entirely different framework. Well, not entirely different, but different framework. Instead of using proof of stake, it's a different implementation of proof of stake. It's called proof of history, so it's just slightly different, but allows for scalability. And I'm not going to go too deep into the tech behind proof of history. You can research that on your own if you want. I don't fully understand it, but I don't think you really need to. So Solana hasn't sacrificed a huge amount of decentralization to get their scalability. However, like, it's still one of the top 10 most decentralized coins in the world, but even still, there are some elements that are quite centralized, which is one of the main drawbacks, in my opinion, of Solana. So there's two real main problems with Solana at the moment, in my opinion. Obviously centralization, like there's clustering where like 150 nodes can basically validate transactions. So there's 2,000 nodes at the moment for Solana, which is pretty decentralized. It's like good enough, you know, but there is clustering where like 150 nodes can process transactions instead of the whole 2,000. And the other thing is that to actually run a node or to become a validator on Solana, it's extremely expensive, and yeah, you pretty much have to use a data center. You can't like use your own home equipment like you can with Ethereum or with Bitcoin at the moment. And the other main drawback, of course, is that it goes down a lot. Like, the Solana blockchain actually goes down like your mum. Yeah, the blockchain goes down a lot, and because the fees are so low, also like your mum, because the fees are so low, people can just spam transactions because it's so cheap, and that kind of congests the network, and yeah, that's why the blockchain goes down. So people can't use the blockchain for hours or even like minutes or hours at a time, which is obviously not good at all. But the reason that happens, or the reason that it's kind of okay, is that Solana is still in beta mode. It's not fully released yet, or so the developers say. So it's not. Hopefully, when it is a fully alpha, full out product, like, all these problems will be hashed out and fixed. But that obviously proposes a lot of risk if these problems aren't fixed, or if you need to use the blockchain at a particular point and it happens to go down, that wouldn't be ideal at all. The other thing I'm not a huge fan of with Solana is that the Solana Foundation still has loads of coins, and the DAO or whatever has a load of coins, and the foundation is selling those coins or granting those coins for different hackathons and other grants. This obviously adds a bit of selling pressure and has actually contributed to Solana's like 80 to 90% crash or decline over the last 6 months or so. So just kind of like one of my other favorite cryptocurrencies, Chainlink, where the foundation was selling so many Chainlink to fund more and more research and to get more and more partnerships, which was good for the ecosystem, for the Chainlink ecosystem, but not good for the price action. So that's something you want to keep an eye on Solana. If eventually, hopefully, they run out of coins or they stop giving so many grants away. But it's also kind of bullish because, more and more, they're encouraging more and more developers to come over to Solana and to start building on Solana. And these hackathons where they're getting thousands of people to, do different implementations, try different things on Solana, and they're getting loads of response. So Ethereum and Solana are like they have the most developers out of any other blockchains. So that's why I'm obviously really bullish on Ethereum and Solana. Like, one of the main things you should be looking at when you're investing in a cryptocurrency or in anything for that matter is the adoption, and particularly developer adoption. Like, people don't want to develop on something. Like, people will invest in something much quicker and then they'll start developing on something. So those developers must really believe in Solana or Ethereum. Or the other reason that the developers like Solana is that it uses the Rust programming language as opposed to the Solidity programming language that Ethereum uses. And Rust is like a much more popular programming language, while Solidity is just pretty much made up by the Ethereum Foundation as far as I'm aware. But it's, either way, I think it's not a very popular language. So the nice thing about Solana is that it would, if it works in the end, which pretty much shown that it does work, is that it won't ever need a layer 2. So that's the way Ethereum is trying to solve for scalability. So Ethereum hasn't sacrificed decentralization whatsoever. So Ethereum hasn't sacrificed decentralization whatsoever on the main chain. They're going to solve scalability, like having low fees essentially, by having a layer 2, like something built on top of Ethereum that processes transactions, and the final transaction would be then implemented on Ethereum. So that's the Ethereum way of doing it. But with Solana, they'll just be doing it, for Ethereum. Like, they use like Matic, Optimism, and Arbitrum or something like that. So they have these other layer 2s, but with Solana, you won't need to do that at all. So if there's like if you need to like bridge, or if there's a clunky process from going from layer 2 to layer 1 on Ethereum for NFTs and for DeFi and stuff like that, then that's kind of a good selling point for Solana, because you won't need to use layer 2s for Solana because it's so fast and cheap already. So the other few reasons why I liked Solana, or got intrigued by Solana, is obviously SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, one of the youngest billionaire in the world. But yeah, super smart guy, created FTX. He was really, he thinks even now that, or he said recently, that Solana is the most underrated cryptocurrency. And like a year ago, he put out this infamous tweet where it's basically just super bullish on Solana, and look how it turned out. But he's still super bullish on on Solana. And another guy that I really respect, Invest Answers, is very bullish on Solana. It's his third biggest cryptocurrency as well. So the hope with Solana is, well, I never think Solana would actually flip Ethereum or anything. Like, I think Ethereum will always be the number one smart contract platform, and all the most valuable NFTs and all the most valuable DeFi will still remain on Ethereum because it's the most secure, and it's survived the Lindy test, and the merge went successful. So there's no real huge risk with Ethereum. So everything of extreme value most likely will be put on Ethereum. But fast transactions, any sort of gaming, like, there's a huge chance for Solana to take over like crypto gaming, like cryptocurrency games, because it's so fast and cheap. And if there's any sort of, as I mentioned, like if there's a lot of steps that you have to take to get from layer 1 to layer 2 with Ethereum, then Solana has a a really good chance there. But essentially, like, Ethereum's market cap is 17 times bigger than Solana's market cap at the moment, and the hope would be that Solana's market cap could get to, you know, maybe a quarter or a fifth as big as Ethereum's market cap, which would be like, you know, a 2 or 3x or 4 or 5x, just to get to that point. Never mind if Ethereum also does multiples in the future, which I think it will. And even for Solana to get back to the all-time high, like it's down like 90%, that would be a huge return, and I think it should go a lot bigger in the future as long as nothing goes wrong. Obviously, the main risk, in my opinion, are regulatory risk. It could be considered a security. I don't know. Like, that's not something I would specialize in, but that would be one of the risks. Or Solana killer comes along. I also think that's unlikely because Solana was one of the first, like one of the earlier smart contract platforms that's really fast and really cheap. So they have a real first mover advantage and a really strong network effect of being the fastest and cheapest blockchain. So I think the risk reward Solana is pretty good, in my opinion, and that's why I've been dollar cost averaging into Solana. But yeah, I'm not putting as much into Solana as I will with Ethereum. I'm still much more, I feel much more comfortable having a large position in Ethereum. Another hugely bullish thing about Solana is it can just get crazy adoption out of nowhere. So it was actually at one point like one of the most used blockchains, and that is because like there's been over 2 million downloads of Phantom Wallet, which is like the equivalent of MetaMask. I think a lot of that came from Steppen, which, if you ever heard of that, it was like a move to earn, where you'd earn money, you'd earn Solana, I think, for just walking, and that was basically just a giant Ponzi. It was just a fun Ponzi that people, you have to buy these shoes to be able to earn tokens to walk. Anyway, basically loads of people started using it, but that's kind of another, like, something like that can come along for Solana because it's one of the easiest blockchains to just spin something up. And there's loads of developers doing stuff like that all the time. The other thing I like about Solana is the CEO and the founder, Anatoly. He is, you know, trying a lot of things, and one of the things he tries a lot of things, not everything sticks. It's kind of using like the Jeff Bezos idea or the Jeff Bezos model, where, you know, he'll try a lot of products and eventually something sticks. He doesn't mind failing, and one of the things he's trying now is come out with a Solana phone. I'm not sure if you saw that, but yeah, they're going to be releasing a Solana phone, and it's actually kind of easy to start up a smartphone these days. And the idea is just to get more people involved. Like, the phone, they're not going to resell the phone for a profit, but they want people to have a crypto phone, like to just be very easy to use in, you know, the crypto ecosystem, and everything will be, you know, lined up to use Solana using that phone and get a lot more users onto the Solana ecosystem. So that's a pretty cool idea, in my opinion. Who knows if it will work, but they'll keep trying stuff like this to get more people onto the Solana blockchain. So that's everything I know about Solana at the moment. If you enjoyed this research, hit the thumbs up button, be appreciated, and subscribe if you're new around here, and hit the notification bell. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one. Cheers.